On his wedding day, she wore a white dress and a veil, but did not walk down the aisle. Because under that veil was his lover. And she, the one who carried his child, walked into the operating room alone to give up everything. And the moment the big screen appeared, the whole truth suffocated the hearts of the entire audience. This is the story of a girl who was betrayed, but became the accuser at her own wedding. Antonio's girlfriend had lost a silly game at the party, and as punishment, she was dared to perform a pole dance. The group laughed, jeered, waiting for the show. But before the humiliation could begin, Antonio turned and pointed at another girl. Robin does ballet. She can't do something so vulgar. Then he looked right at Melissa. You do it for her. Melissa froze. I don't know how to do that, she answered calmly. Antonio let out a mocking laugh and, in front of everyone, exposed the one thing she'd tried to leave in the past. Didn't your mom raise you doing this kind of dance? Even if you didn't dance yourself, watching her should have taught you a few moves, right? The room fell into awkward silence.
She didn't cry.
She didn't make a scene. Melissa simply took off her engagement ring and handed it back to him. No theatrics. Just an ending. Their friends stared in shock, muttering that Antonio had gone too far. Someone said, "Go after her, man." But someone else snorted. "Let her go. With that temper? She'll be back before 10 minutes are up." But she didn't return. And later, everyone heard that Antonio's wedding had no bride. He went crazy that day. It was the end of the year when the memories returned. Some old friends organized a party at a villa up the mountain, sending a message in the group chat. Everyone must attend, no excuses. Skip it, and you'll be cursed with bad luck next year. As Melissa skimmed the message, she called Antonio, though she wasn't sure why anymore. He picked up quickly. On his end, it was eerily quiet. Did you see the message? She asked. Dan and the guys are putting together a gathering. Yeah, I saw it, Antonio replied casually. She glanced at the clock. In about 30 minutes I'll take a taxi, he cut her off. You'll come by yourself. That stopped her. And you? She asked, surprised. If he wasn't going, she didn't want to either. These were his friends, not hers. Then, a voice rang from his side. Sweet, playful, almost syrupy. Tony, are you ready? I'm done. It wasn't hard to recognize. Robin. You're with Robin? She blurted. Yeah, he didn't even try to hide it. I'm taking her first. She brought too much stuff, filled the whole car. So it wasn't that he wasn't going. He just wasn't taking her. As he spoke, Robin's voice piped in. Is that Sister Melissa? Tony, are you taking me but not her? Won't she be mad at you? Then a dramatic sigh. If I had known, I'd have gotten my driver's license so I wouldn't trouble you. The doctor told you not to drive, Antonio reminded her, sounding like he'd said it 100 times. You have a heart condition, remember? I know, Robin giggled. Melissa could almost picture her sticking out her tongue playfully. Antonio probably looked at her the same way he always did, helpless, but with affection. They had grown up in the same circle. Their teasing, their laughter, their familiarity, it had always looked too much like a couple's bond. Every time Melissa got jealous, Antonio would shrug it off. What are you imagining, he'd say. She's just a kid. No brains, no malice. If I ever thought of her like that, I'd be desperate. Wouldn't I? The giggles continued through the phone. It's fine if I don't get a license, Robin said. From now on, I'll just use your car. As long as Sister Melissa doesn't mind. Antonio chuckled. Do you think she's as spoiled as you? Of course not. She's the most generous, the most understanding, the most beautiful. Happy? He interrupted. Happy, Robin laughed. They kept on bantering like that, while Melissa sat in silence. Antonio praised her. My girlfriend is the most generous, most beautiful, but the words felt hollow. She hung up without a sound. Getting a car out of the city wasn't easy. Melissa waited over an hour and had to pay extra just to find a driver willing to go up the mountain. The frustration simmered in her chest, but she forced herself to stay calm. By the time she arrived, the villa was already buzzing with lights and voices. Robin lost. Ha ha ha.
No.
They cheated. That round doesn't count. The voices rang from inside. The front door opened, and laughter burst out like champagne. Inside, A group of wealthy young heirs sat on the floor playing a board game, surrounded by more onlookers. Robin had apparently lost and was puffing out her cheeks in protest. This is unfair. That round wasn't legit. We have to replay it. These weren't just any guests. Every person there came from an influential family. No one was there to spoil anyone. Robin, if you play, you have to accept losing.
Exactly.
If you're going to cheat, what's the point of playing? Robin pouted and looked toward the sofa. Antonio sat there. She knew exactly who to turn to. Tony, they're ganging up on me, she whined. Everyone knew Antonio was the Liu family heir. Backing from him was as good as divine protection. But someone murmured, Antonio, come on. You've defended her so many times already. This is getting ridiculous. So it wasn't Robin's first time losing. Melissa clenched her fists without realizing. She remembered how just recently her younger brother got into trouble at university, had unintentionally offended the son of a high-ranking official, and was about to face disciplinary action. She had begged Antonio to step in, but he had only said, people must take responsibility for their own actions. I don't like mixing personal and professional matters. But when it came to Robin, that boundary didn't exist. A word from Antonio, and no one would dare oppose her, not with the Liu name on the line. Now, the room waited for his response. Antonio looked around before settling his eyes on Robin. She gave him a pleading look, mouthing, Tony, help me. Antonio pressed his lips together. Silent. No one could tell what he was thinking. But then, out of nowhere, he glanced at his watch and asked, where's my wife? Hasn't she arrived yet? And just like that, a flicker of warmth sparked in Melissa's chest. She's here. Sister-in-law's here. Someone with sharp eyes called out. Everyone turned. Because of Antonio, they all greeted her with smiles, calling her sister-in-law. But had he not mentioned her, no one would have noticed her at all. Because, in their world, she didn't belong. She was just a girl from a small town, carried into their circle by merit and love, but clearly not enough of either. If it weren't for being Antonio's girlfriend, Melissa knew she would have never stepped foot into that glittering world. No matter how many lifetimes she might have prayed, this circle of money, power, and casual cruelty wasn't built for people like her. She had only gotten in because of him. The plush carpet under her shoes felt softer than clouds as she walked toward the center of the room, toward Antonio. She arrived just in time to hear his voice, light with amusement. Honey, you're here, he said, smiling like everything was fine. Robin lost the game. She can't possibly do something like a pole dance, she does ballet. But you can do it for her, right? Melissa froze. What did you say? She asked, hoping she'd misheard. Antonio didn't flinch. I said, Robin lost. You dance for her. The way he said it, so casual as if it were obvious. Melissa felt her chest tighten. Sister Melissa, Robin chimed in, you're always so calm and elegant. Who would have thought you'd know how to do such a sensual dance? Appearances can be deceiving, huh? We'll leave it to you then. Before Melissa could respond, Robin shoved a bikini into her hands with a gleeful smirk and skipped back to the couch beside Antonio, where she looped her arm through his and gave Melissa a playful wink. Then she turned to Antonio with mock curiosity.
Tony, be honest.
Did you fall for Sister Melissa because you saw her dance like that? You men love that kind of thing, right? Should I start learning too? Antonio looked at her seriously. You can't learn that. Why not? Robin pouted. If Melissa can do it, why can't I? That's not fair. Calm down. Don't make a scene, he said, petting her hand gently. You're not the same. Then, like nothing had happened, he turned back to Melissa.
Well?
Why are you just standing there?
Go change.
Don't keep everyone waiting. Melissa stared at him, the bikini in her hand feeling like poison. She clenched it tightly, then without hesitation tossed it to the floor. I'm afraid you're going to be disappointed, she said. I don't know how to dance. Antonio's brows furrowed. You don't. That's right, she replied, her voice cold. I don't. Come on, Melissa. Don't be like this. Actually, she cut him off, I suddenly feel sick. She turned on her heel to leave. Wait, Robin said, her voice soft behind her. Don't know how to dance or just don't want to? She paused dramatically. I get it. You're upset Tony drove me, and not you. That's why you won't help me. Right? She turned to Antonio. Tony, I think she's mad at me. What do we do? Let it go, Robin said sweetly. I don't want her to get angry because of me. She bent down to pick up the bikini, but Antonio grabbed her wrist and pulled her back down beside him. You do ballet. Your legs are worth gold. Don't do anything stupid. Then he turned back to Melissa. Didn't you say your mom made a living dancing this kind of thing? Even if you didn't do it, you must have learned something, right? Someone in the room muttered just loud enough for it to sting. Wasn't her mom basically a prosto? Sorry, I mean guess she learned her tricks at home. Laughter rippled around the room. Though most kept their voices low, the ugly words stabbed at her like shards of glass. Her face went pale. She clenched her fists to stop herself from slapping him right there. But Antonio wasn't done. Go change, he said again, impatient now. Stop wasting everyone's time. Melissa looked down at the bikini, lying on the floor. She stepped on it firmly, as if crushing everything it represented. Antonio grabbed her wrist. Who said you could leave? He demanded. She smiled ice cold. Do you want me to stay so you can keep humiliating me? Humiliate you? He echoed, as if the thought hadn't crossed his mind. After a moment of silence, he added, You think what I said was humiliating? He looked at her in disbelief. Melissa, don't be so sensitive, yeah? Her voice dropped, sharp with disbelief. I'm the sensitive one? And if not, he snapped. It's just a pole dance. It's not like I'm asking you to sell your body. Why make a scene and embarrass me like this? In that moment, Melissa realized maybe she'd never truly known Antonio. Or maybe he had always been like this and she had just been too blinded to see it. People in this circle didn't see the world the same way. They couldn't. Her thoughts drifted back to the night she met him. She had been working as a waitress in a bar to pay her brother's tuition. The pole dancer hadn't shown up, and the manager, desperate, asked her to step in. I don't know how, she'd said. Doesn't matter, he replied. You're pretty. You've got the figure. Just shake your hips.
Even then, she didn't want to.
But the pay was double, and she needed the money. So she changed clothes and went up on stage, teeth clenched. She didn't know how to move seductively. She just swayed awkwardly, hoping to get through it. The audience wasn't kind. What is this? Stop faking it, someone shouted. Don't act all innocent now. You're already up there. Might as well give us a show. Refund my damn drink. Humiliated and near tears, Melissa tried to keep going, but the manager blamed her and threatened to cut her pay. She was new to the world, fragile and overwhelmed. That's when Antonio appeared. He was the largest shareholder of the bar. He shut down all orders that night, forced the men to apologize, and threatened legal action. Later, he pulled her aside. She thought he'd scold her too, but instead, he just said, Life's already hard enough. You're doing the best you can. Go home and rest. To her, those words had felt like warmth, like someone finally understood. After that night, they grew close. He learned her story. She believed he saw her, cared for her. But now, he was the one cutting her open with every word. Robin's voice snapped her back. Tony, maybe we're being too hard on her. It's just a dance, after all. It's starting to feel like we're all ganging up on her. Melissa's voice was calm, but deadly. Aren't you? If you're so brave with your mouth, Melissa said coldly, why don't you get on stage yourself? The words echoed across the room like a slap. Antonio's face darkened. I already told you, he snapped. Robin does ballet. She can't do a vulgar dance like that. That was the final blow. Melissa felt her heart crack clean in two. With no drama, no extra words, she nodded. Good. Then she pulled the engagement ring from her finger, the same one Antonio had slipped on during a proposal he planned so meticulously, and tossed it onto the floor in front of him. It clinked once before settling like a period at the end of a sentence. Not long ago, she had cried tears of joy when he slid it on her hand. She thought they were going to grow old together. Now, it lay discarded at his feet. Antonio stared at it in disbelief. Melissa, what the hell does that mean? I'm giving it back, she said, locking eyes with him. We're done. The entire room went still. The air dropped to freezing. Antonio's jaw tightened, veins bulging across his temples. The same group that had laughed earlier suddenly scrambled to patch things up. "Sister-in-law, don't joke like that," one said nervously. "You can't just talk about breaking up so easily." "Yeah," another added. "Antonio was just teasing. Don't take it seriously. He loves you a lot, you know," someone chimed in a little too fast. "There's no way he'd let you really pole dance." "Exactly. Antonio, you went too far with the joke. Go after her already." Melissa knew these people. They weren't defending her. They were just trying to avoid being caught in the fallout of Antonio getting publicly dumped. Antonio's face shifted. The arrogance faded slightly, replaced with something almost like guilt. "It's fine," he said at last. "You don't have to dance if you don't want to." But when he reached for her, she stepped back. "I'm not kidding," she said quietly. The mood shifted again. Antonio's expression hardened. He stared at her, then let out a smug, condescending smile. "Are you sure you want to break up with me?" he said, voice sharp. "You do realize the only reason you're standing in this villa right now is because you're my girlfriend, right? With your background, if it weren't for me, you wouldn't even have the right to be here." Enough. She'd heard enough. "I gave you the ring. As of now, we're done," she said, and turned to leave. Behind her, someone asked nervously, "Antonio, aren't you going after her?"
"Yeah, man.
"I think she's really serious this time." Antonio scoffed. "Go after her? For what?" he said bitterly. "With that temper of hers? She'll be back in 10 minutes. His voice dripped with confidence. And it was true every time they fought. She had always been the one to come back. To apologize. To compromise. But not this time. Not anymore. Melissa walked away, without looking back. The villa was isolated, deep in the hills. It was hard to get a ride, and even harder in the middle of the night. She kept refreshing the ride-hailing app, but no one accepted. Eventually, she had no choice but to walk. The autumn wind bit through her thin clothes. Inside the villa, it had been warm. She hadn't thought twice about what she wore. Now, her teeth chattered, and a dull ache bloomed in her abdomen. She kept walking. Eventually, a driver stopped. By then, the pain had worsened. Her forehead was drenched in cold sweat, her vision blurring at the edges. She barely made it into the car before she collapsed. The driver panicked and took her straight to the nearest hospital. When Melissa woke up, she was lying in a hospital bed. Her younger brother stood beside her, eyes red-rimmed and close to tears. "Sis, why didn't you tell me you were pregnant?" She blinked. "What? You didn't know?" The doctor stepped in, holding a chart. "Congratulations. You're about 2 months along. The cold weather and your low blood sugar caused you to faint. You need to take better care of yourself." Melissa stared at the report. It confirmed it. There was life growing inside her. Her brother leaned closer. "Aren't you happy?" he asked softly. "Didn't you always say you wanted a child?" She gripped the paper with shaking fingers. "Doctor," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Please help me schedule an abortion." "What?" Her brother looked like someone had punched the air out of him. "You always said you wanted to have a baby. Why now?" He stopped, voice trembling. Melissa just shook her head. Once she had wanted a child. She had dreamed that maybe her late mother would return to her in another life as her baby. But now, all she felt was emptiness. The doctor didn't push. He'd seen it before. After he left the room, Melissa finally told her brother the truth. She told him everything. The party. The humiliation. The ring. Antonio. Her brother's eyes filled with rage. He jumped up, ready to go confront Antonio then and there. Not long ago, he had even helped Antonio pick out the ring, helped plan the proposal, filmed it from behind a camera just to surprise her. "Don't," Melissa said, grabbing his wrist. "He's not worth it." The abortion was scheduled for 2 days later. Her brother took leave from university to stay by her side, renting the companion bed and sleeping by her door. On the morning of the procedure, he asked to borrow her phone. Melissa unlocked it, and the screen lit up with notifications. In just 2 days, Antonio had already made multiple public appearances on Robin's arm. Photos of them smiling at events were plastered all over the internet. The caption on one of Robin's posts caught her eye. It was a picture of a hand wearing a diamond ring. Her ring. The same one she had thrown at Antonio's feet was now proudly displayed on Robin's finger. Melissa stared.
Then she laughed.
It wasn't bitter. Just cold. What's so funny? Her brother asked cautiously. Why didn't I see it earlier? She murmured. Her brother didn't answer. Do you really not care anymore? He asked. She gave him a tired smile. Why should I? She said. It's just trash. Mixed in with other trash. The surgery went smoothly. When they wheeled Melissa out of the operating room, her brother was right there, walking beside the gurney, eyes red and sniffling like a child. A grown man in his 20s, crying as if he were 10. Melissa wanted to laugh, but her body was too weak. Over the next few days, he never left her side. He brought her meals, tucked her in, and even stacked a mountain of supplements on the bedside table like some fortress of vitamins meant to protect her. It reminded her of their childhood. When their mom brought home snacks, the two of them would fight over them. He always lost on purpose, and she'd hide the loot in her nightstand drawer. But every night, he'd sneak into her room to steal some back. She always left the drawer open just enough. She wanted him to find it. On her last night in the hospital, her brother came to the door and said quietly, Sis, I can't sleep. What is it? She asked. His voice, usually full of laughter, now sounded small. Nothing. Just. Seeing you like this reminded me of Mom. Do you think she'd be disappointed in me? For getting into that fight at school? She didn't answer right away. Recently, he'd gotten into trouble for hitting a classmate the first fight of his life. The reason? That classmate had insulted their mother. Their mother had been a beautiful woman, too trusting, and fell for a man who left her with 2 kids and a mountain of debt. While she struggled to survive, their father vanished with another woman. People whispered he was dead, or maybe living in comfort elsewhere. Their mom didn't have time to care. She had mouths to feed. She started dancing in clubs to earn money. People called her names. Some said she should have dumped the kids at an orphanage. But she always smiled, even as the weight of the world pressed on her back. When others mocked Melissa and her brother at school, their mom would hug them and whisper, I'm sorry. But the children knew she had nothing to apologize for. She died of overwork right after Melissa started college. Mom would be proud, Melissa said softly. She'd be happy you defended her. So what now? Her brother asked. Melissa hesitated. Professor Mao came to see me. She asked if I wanted to be her assistant abroad. I've been thinking maybe it's time. Professor Mao was one of her mentors, a kind yet fiercely intelligent woman who had always pushed Melissa to aim higher. Years ago, Melissa turned her down. Now, with everything crumbling, the idea of a new life felt like oxygen. Her brother didn't flinch. Then go.
I'll be fine.
When do you leave? 1st of next month. She glanced down. Next month, Antonio, I'll leave you completely. After she was discharged, Melissa insisted her brother return to school. She went back Alanito, the place she and Antonio once shared. Calling it home now felt like a cruel joke. But it had been theirs. Until now. She opened the front door and the first thing that greeted her was a piece of lacy lingerie flying across the hallway. Her eyes followed its arc, landing at the feet of none other than Robin, who descended the stairs with a smug smile, wearing a white wedding dress. Melissa, sister, she said in a sugary tone. You're back. Antonio appeared behind her. You came back? His tone was casual, as if nothing had ever happened. Melissa didn't speak. She only stared at the dress Robin wore. Noticing where his gaze went, Antonio quickly explained. Since you weren't here, I asked Robin to help me pick out your wedding dress. She's a bit more filled out than you, but if we order a size down, it should fit you fine. Robin giggled and twirled. Tony, that's so mean. I'm not fat. I'm just curvy. She turned to Melissa, voice syrupy. Want me to take it off now and give it to you? I'll even let you borrow my heels. Melissa's face didn't twitch. No thanks, she said coolly. I don't like wearing things that have already been passed around. Antonio's jaw clenched slightly, but he said nothing. Instead, he handed her a piece of paper. Since you didn't want a big wedding, I made a list of close friends and family. See if you want to add anyone. He glanced at Robin. Also, do you still have spots for bridesmaids? Robin's never been one before. If you have room, maybe let her. Melissa scanned the list. Months ago, she would have been giddy with excitement at the thought of her wedding. She would have stayed, let the dress be altered, let Robin giggle beside her. But now it all felt like theater. Let her be a bridesmaid, she said, handing back the paper. After all, if the wedding doesn't have a bride, at least it'll have one more bridesmaid. Antonio blinked, clearly caught off guard. You really don't mind? Not at all, she said, brushing past him and walking up the stairs. Antonio started to follow, but Robin grabbed his arm. Tony, come help me choose my dress, please. If I pick something awful, it might make Melissa look bad on stage. She clung to him like a child, and Antonio, true to form, gave in. He touched her nose and smiled. Their voices faded down the hall. Melissa stepped into what used to be her bedroom. The scent was different now, floral, powdery. Someone else had been sleeping here. The closet, once shared, was now filled with clothes that weren't hers. Her side of the bed was unmade. Still, she didn't cry. Not anymore. She sat down and pulled out her phone. It vibrated with a message. From Robin. The preview flashed one line. Just between us girls, when Antonio dialed Melissa's number, his hands trembled more than he wanted to admit. The call didn't even ring, it went straight to voicemail. He tried again. Same result. A third time. Nothing. Antonio threw the phone aside, the clatter echoing through the empty ballroom. Only minutes ago, this was supposed to be his wedding. Now it looked like the aftermath of a disaster. Chairs overturned, flower petals scattered like ashes. On the massive screen behind him, frozen mid-frame, was the sonogram photo of a child that would never be born. His child. He ran a hand through his hair, disheveled, eyes bloodshot. He had played her for a fool, taken her love for granted, humiliated her, watched her break, without once reaching out to pull her back. And now she had vanished, taking with her the one thing he never knew he couldn't live without. Outside, Blue Group employees were scouring the city. Every street, every apartment, every contact they could think of. Antonio had flipped every switch of power he had. But he couldn't control time. He couldn't undo what had been done. Meanwhile, miles away, Melissa stood by a window in a quiet hotel overlooking the sea. The breeze was gentle, the horizon calm. In her hand, her phone vibrated for the third time. Antonio's name flashed again. She stared at the screen for a long second, then placed it face down on the table. Robin's message still lingered in her mind, a sneer disguised as sympathy. Even if you marry him, what does it get you? With one flick of my finger, Tony will follow me anywhere. For years, Melissa had tolerated that toxic circle, Antonio's silence, his arrogance, his cowardice masked as control. But this time, she had walked out before it killed her. She glanced at her packed suitcase beside the bed. Her flight was in 6 hours. Destination: Paris. She had accepted Professor Mal's offer. She would be her assistant, working in an academic program for international scholars. The new beginning she never thought she'd need. The new life Antonio had forced her to find. She had already sold everything she didn't need. Her share of their old apartment. Her car. Her jewelry. Everything tied to the version of her that had stayed quiet when Antonio dismissed her. Everything that reminded her of what it meant to beg for love. She no longer wanted to remember. She was building a new identity, one where Antonio Liu didn't exist. But letting go wasn't easy. That morning, she had stood in front of the mirror, holding the sonogram photo for the last time. Her fingers trembled, but she didn't cry. Not anymore. She whispered a goodbye, not to Antonio, not to the baby, but to the girl she used to be. The girl who waited for apologies that never came. The girl who thought love meant sacrifice without return. Downstairs, a cab was already waiting. Her brother had come to see her off. He hugged her tightly and said, "If he shows up, don't look back." "I won't," she promised. "He won't find me anyway." At the airport, Melissa passed through security with nothing but her luggage and a new passport under her mother's maiden name. The name she should have never left behind. As the plane took off, she closed her eyes. For the first time in years, there was no weight pressing on her chest. No fear of being left behind. Only freedom. Back at the wedding hall, Antonio stood alone, replaying every second of the video she had left him. Every insult from Robin, Every lie he had ignored, every chance he had to stop before it went too far. And in the end, the moment Melissa had disappeared without a trace. He sank into a chair, his custom-made suit wrinkled and forgotten. He thought he had everything. But in truth, the only thing that mattered had slipped through his fingers like water, and he was the one who had let it spill. Melissa had blocked him long ago, his number, his work lines, even the numbers of his closest contacts. Antonio never noticed. By the time he realized she was gone, she had already erased him from her life with the precision of someone who had rehearsed the goodbye 1,000 times in her head. To track her down, Antonio could only resort to ordering his secretary to investigate discreetly. He sat alone on the ballroom floor, his fingers buried in his hair, mumbling her name like a broken prayer. Melissa, he felt it deep in his bones. This time, she wasn't just angry. This time, she was really gone. The scandal of Antonio's failed wedding exploded across the internet like wildfire. As the heir to the Liu Group, any move he made became front-page news. But this time it wasn't business deals or financial forecasts, it was heartbreak, betrayal, and collapse. Especially when his video apology was released. "Love, I'm sorry. I know I made a mistake. I don't expect your forgiveness.
I just want to see you one more time.
If you're willing to meet me, I'll give you all my shares in the Liu Group." It was desperate, raw, and public. The media devoured it. Businessmen shook their heads. "He's gone mad," they said. "Giving away the Liu empire for a woman?" Social media exploded with speculation. Who was this Melissa that had driven Antonio Liu to his knees? They unearthed every piece of their past photos, dates, gossip from classmates, former employees. Melissa became a legend overnight, though she never asked for it. She only heard about the frenzy when her brother called. "Sis," he laughed nervously, "you won't believe it.
Everyone's talking about you.
Antonio even came to find me again. But don't worry, I didn't say a word." Melissa simply replied, and she knew it was only a matter of time before Antonio found her. So when she left her apartment that day to say goodbye to Professor Mao, she wasn't surprised to see him waiting at the corner. "Love." His voice was hoarse, thick with regret. She stopped walking. "Don't come any closer," she warned. He froze, thinking she was still pregnant. He took a tentative step forward. "If you're carrying the baby, you shouldn't be out walking. Let's go home. I found the best doctors. I'll take care of everything. We'll still have the wedding. Just come home." Melissa turned and kept walking. Antonio followed, panic rising. "Please don't shut me out. You can punish me however you want, yell at me, hit me, but don't stay mad. Not when you're pregnant. It's not good for the baby. For him, please don't hate me anymore." Melissa stopped and laughed. It was a cold, tired laugh. Antonio mistook it for forgiveness and stepped closer. "Love, why are you acting now like you care?" She cut him off. "You think after humiliating me in front of everyone, I'd still be pregnant? Still dreaming of a future with you?
No.
Not even in a nightmare." She stepped back. "I would never let a child of mine have a father like you." Antonio's face went pale. "The baby is gone? If you don't believe me, go check the hospital yourself," she said flatly. He reached for her wrist, shaking. "You're lying. You always wanted a baby with me. You said it was your dream. You wouldn't just kill it. Do you think I care enough to lie to you?" she snapped. "You want the truth? Ask your secretary. She probably has the report already." His hand fell from her arm like dead weight. He dropped to the ground, broken. Behind her, she heard him whisper, "Why? I'm his father. How could you make that decision alone?" She turned halfway, her voice quiet but cutting. "When you and Robin were laughing at me that night, talking about pole dancing, did it ever occur to you that you could lose everything?" That night, Antonio stood in front of her building for hours. She didn't look at him again. She turned, went upstairs, and called the police. They escorted him away. After that, Antonio didn't show up for a long time. According to her brother, once Antonio returned to his home country, he went straight to the hospital, confirmed the abortion, and came out of the building looking like he'd aged 10 years in one night. The Liu Group was already in free fall. Stocks plummeted. The board called an emergency meeting and stripped him of all authority. The family threw him out of the house. The empire he was born to inherit slipped through his fingers. That was when Robin reappeared heavily pregnant, smug, determined to become the next Mrs.
Lou.
Antonio agreed.
No one understood why.
Maybe he thought having a child would make up for what he lost. But on the day of the wedding, just as Robin reached the top of the grand staircase, in front of all the guests, Antonio turned to her and shoved her down the steps. She died instantly. The entire country watched in horror, and Antonio was sentenced to death for premeditated murder. His execution was scheduled within the year. Melissa didn't cry when she heard. Her brother told her in person. By then, they had both been living abroad. She had helped him secure a scholarship and watched him flourish. They promised each other that once Professor Mao's research ended, they would return home together. That New Year's Eve, the three of them, Melissa, her brother, and Professor Mao, gathered in a small kitchen to cook hot pot. A clear broth, just like Mom used to make. As the steam rose into the air, Melissa and her brother sat in silence, each lost in memory. The past had left scars. But the warmth in that little room reminded them they were still here. Still alive. And finally, free. If you love emotional and surprising stories, don't forget to like the video to support the channel and help us spread more heart-touching stories.